Pray with me, please. Gracious and holy God, we give thanks for this opportunity to gather and listen to what you have to say. Open our ears, our hearts to be receptive, to honor and be challenged. It's in your mighty and wondrous name we pray. Amen. Good morning. It is a good morning to be here, and it is a good day to be on week 2 of our season of giving, where we're digging into why we give and what it means to give and what it means to give as a Christian. Last week, we talked about the attitude. Now, anyone remember what attitude we should be giving with? Cheer. Or gratitude, or thankfulness, or something of the other, that it's not out of obedience or out of spite or being resentful or being pressured. It's to be out of joy. We talked about the attitude, that Christian giving is a response to God's grace, that God gives us everything. We heard it in our John 3:16 verse today. God gave his only son. But not just that, God also gave us everything: the earth, the spirit, each other, and love, and compassion, and kindness, and. God has gifted us this grace, and our response to it is that when we are overflowing, we give. Not out of obligation, but out of joy. And so that's the attitude by which we hope people give. And then today we're going to talk about motivation on the why. First, before we even talk about giving, I want to talk about something about this church that I noticed the very second I drove for the very first time to UMC Thousand Oaks. There are these 3 words that are on signs, that are on your website, our website, because I'm here now, that are on our app, that are on our logos, they're on everything. What are those 3 words? Okay. It's actually, if you said it correctly, kudos, but what I heard, love, repeat after me, love, serve, and grow. Love, serve, grow. They are everywhere on our campus. When you drive, this beautiful sign, what is it right there? Is that Jan's? Yes. That's the first thing that caught my eye when I drove by this church the very first time many, many years ago, but I wasn't serving here. I remember thinking, wow, that church has a sign that has these really beautiful words that say love, grow, and serve. What cool values for a church to be rooted in. Everyone who visits us or drives on Jan's, which is a lot of people, are seeing those 3 words: love, serve, grow. Seemingly simple, but they are UMC Thousand Oaks outward core values. Whether you knew it or not, that is the message we are sending to everyone, that we are people who love, who serve, and grow. A core value is a fundamental belief or a guiding principle that shapes who we are. Now, do you, as the individual you are, do you believe that we are a congregation that loves? Do you believe we're a congregation that serves? Okay, and do you believe we're a congregation that grows? Working on it. Theoretically, everyone's always working on growing. If you think you've ended your growth, you have not, I promise you. But we know that. But do we know that's the perception we're giving to the world? Do we claim these core values in everything we do? That every ministry and every act and who we are as UMCTO is rooted in loving and serving and growing? I feel very compelled, since being appointed here just over 3 months ago, that we are really going to hone in on what we do here falls under one of these core values. Because if we're going to put it out to the world, we need to put it into our actions and into our ministries. You need to live it out. It can't just be words on paper or words on a sign or words on a website that look good and sound great. But they're actually stellar Christian values that we should be really honing in on. And so why I bring this up is because for the next 3 weeks, We're going to talk about how giving is rooted in each of these 3 core values. So they're not just now going to be words on paper. You might know they are something deeper, but now we're going to preach about it. We're going to talk about it. We're going to dig into it. And so today, as you see on the front of your bulletin, it is the theme of giving as an act of what? Did the hearts give it away on the altar? Because I thought those were fun. They're a realistic way to translate love, which I try not to do, but I don't really know how else to put love on an altar. Giving as an act of love, because this is a fundamental core value of United Methodist Church of Thousand Oaks, and frankly, of Christians. Giving as an act of love. What does that mean? This is the motivation that I pray that we all find. Because at the core of Christian generosity is love. We don't want to give out of malice, or we don't want to give out of hate, or you don't give out of any of those things. You don't give out of violence. You don't give out of fear. You give because you've been so loved and that you want to express your love. Not just in finances, but in time and attention and empathy and vulnerability. You come to church because you love some people, or hopefully all the people. You love this place. You have memories here. You are rooted here. You come to this church because you either love what you hear, you love the music, you love this space. Something about this space you love. It's different for everyone. Prayerfully, God's at the top of that list. That you come to church because you love God, and then the community is a big, huge, wonderful benefit. Prayerfully, you coming to church because you feel loved, and you want to know that love. And in doing so, we don't just hoard the love, we don't hoard the service or hoard the growth. In fact, that's just poor belief in a God that is very generous. What do you do with what you learn and what you're given? What are we supposed to do with it? Share. That's a concept I'm teaching my 3-year-olds. That's a concept I taught my 1, 2, 3, 4, now almost 5-year-old. And yet adults have a really hard time with sharing. We are the worst of that. Because we feel like we need to have the most, we need to be the most boisterous, we need to have all the things, and we need to hoard it for ourselves, when in fact we're taught the exact opposite, is to share it. The one thing Jesus reminds us is to share the gospel. Go out and share what you know. Tell people about it. Because that's how you become a believer. When you act like a sharing grown adult and you give of your whole self, of all your resources, that, I promise you, because I've seen it over and over, it inspires people, it inspires ministry, and it's inspired by God. Our gospel lesson today takes us to the Temple of Jerusalem, where Jesus is sitting and hanging out with people and watching people, going to these very large treasury chests, essentially where people are donating. And Jesus witnesses all these very wealthy, religious elite people coming forward, dropping in loads and loads of treasure and money, making a show, a performance of their donations, saying, I have more than anyone. Here, I'm going to put this much in there. The amount was impressive of how much they're giving. But how much do you think it cost them to put that amount in there? I see the choir shaking this. Is that like not very much? It didn't probably cost them a lot. Then who comes in after these wealthy people are dropping in boatloads of money? Who follows them? The widow. Have you all heard of the story of this widow before? Okay. So what does she drop in there? I guarantee what you're saying is correct. I can't hear everybody. However, the mites. She drops in 2 coins that are equal to the amount of a penny. Now, what can you buy with a penny in this day and age? I don't know what. Could anyone have bought anything way back when? What could you buy with a penny? Not a lot. She could not buy anything with this amount of money. Maybe a slice of bread, maybe. So this amount of money that she gives 2 coins that are worth the same amount as a penny, which cannot buy much of anything, but it is in fact her absolute amount of money. She comes in, gives everything she owns. She comes in and she says, I am not worried about what or where or how things are going to come to my favor, because you know what? I am giving to the God I trust in, that I believe in, that I love. And so Jesus laser focuses on this widow because he doesn't see the amount, because frankly, the amount she's giving is nearly nothing. But it's her heart that he's focusing on. And he says this statement to his disciples. He says, I say to you, this poor widow has put in more than all of those who are contributing to the treasury. She has sacrificed more than these very wealthy elite people putting in a very large amount of money who still have even more money available. And she puts in everything she has, and he says this statement that flips it all on its head. Because how can 2 mites, a penny's worth of money, be more than a mountain of gold? This is where the eternal measure of generosity plays in. That generosity isn't about the amount. It is not about the number. It's never about the number. It's about how and the why you give. Wealthy often give from the surplus. They calculate what they can safely spare. It doesn't hurt them. They still have security. They don't have to change their lifestyle. But people like the widow give everything they have to live on. Oftentimes, and now this is the big strokes that I'm doing, oftentimes wealthy give from assets and widows give from existence. For the rich, the sacrifice is small, but for the widow, the sacrifice was total. She is essentially saying, my entire life, including my very next meal, is in God's hands. So, what I'm saying with this story is, if you have anything to give, how much of it are you giving? I am not asking you to be like the widow and have absolutely your very last drop of any amount of money and give it to the church, because we talked about this last week. Shelter, food, water, things to survive are very important. Now, what I'm going to talk about next, I need you all really to listen to this, because it gets a little wonky when you start talking about money and you talk about wealth and you talk about the reality of people's situation. So I'm doing my best from the pulpit to broad stroke. But we are familiar with the concept of tithing. Maybe head nod. All right, what does it mean to tithe? 10%. Because in the Old Testament, there is a story about the 10% practice of giving what they had. That is the right amount to give. It shows that you've done your due diligence. You have given the right amount. I do not, Bishop, when you watch this, just hear me out, okay? I do not care about tithing. I do not, even remotely, that doesn't cross my mind. I am not interested in you coming up to a 10% give. What I am curious and interested in is, are you giving proportionally to your life? Are you giving proportionally to your heart's sacrificial nuance? A tithe is a noble goal, but that is a great benchmark when you have the means. But I'm not here for a static percentage and saying, you get a gold star because you gave 10%, you get a gold star because you gave 10%. That doesn't interest me. I'm interested on proportional giving. Dynamic commitment to love. And here's why. The widow and the wealthy people, you see the wealthy folk give 10%, and they still have an abundance. But you see the widow give 100% of her heart, and she's left with not much. I'm not concerned about a rigid rule. I'm concerned about how much you feel so led to give. A commitment to God that reflects in you through action. And so for some of you, this is what this will look like. Whether due to job changes, medical bills, or the daily grind, you're living paycheck to paycheck, your financial capacity for generosity is small. Especially in this day and age, everything is so expensive. Everything, for everyone, across the board. And so if you are someone who is living in the daily grind and barely making it through, but still is making it through, and you can commit to $20 a month, but that commitment requires you to, adjust some things, put some trust in God, but that your rest of your needs are kept, that is a sacred gift. Thank you. That's like your 2 coins, given in faith, received by God, profound trust. But if you're on the other side of that, where you have abundance, you have a lifestyle, or you've worked very hard and you have surplus, your proportional giving is going to be different than $20. Maybe $1,500, maybe $200, maybe some other 100 of sorts. $20 coming from people who are very tight on finances versus $1,500 coming from people who have a lot more fluidity. Those are proportional giving statements. The fact that you've committed to giving and trying your best to keep up with your commitment is what it looks like. Giving is not equal. It never is. Some of you are great givers in person. You can come and volunteer every single day, and some of you can't. Some of you can give in money, and you can give a surplus, and some of you can't. Some of you can give of your talents because they're really great, like music, or you can come and talk in a microphone, and some of you are like, hard no, I'm not going up to the front of the church. Some of you are very gifted at sound and tech, and others of you are like, big pass on that. Some of you are gifted in service. Some of you come to Westminster and you help out with the people. None of us give equally. There's no way that that is possible. Same goes for giving of money. Because it's not about the physical number. It's about communal partnership. And so here's a call I have for those of you who do have surplus or have a little bit extra wiggle room. You are making a difference in the lives of the people who can't. Because there is a placehold for you to know that you are able to give more so that the people who are struggling to eat, who are struggling for rent, that they can take a breath. That they can be relieved. That is a sacred responsibility. And those of you who are living by the grind, you give when you can and you know it's faithful. Nobody wants to talk about this. And I don't know who here gives a lot or who gives a little. That's not the point. It's, are you giving proportionally to what you are getting? And if you're getting everything from God, how much are you really giving? Proportional giving, proportional commitment. I know you don't really want to talk about it, but you need to think about it where you're at. And this goes for organizations you love. We give to the Humane Society because we just love the Humane Society. We give to organizations, my family, that matter to us. We give to organizations that we care about because they're doing good and holy work in the world. And so if you feel the same about this church or whatever church you call home, consider that as a commitment. I'm going to talk a little logistics here because if I don't, then it may never click. Have you ever seen this before? In theory, most of you were mailed it in the mail. It is also sitting out on our welcome table. What is this? A pledge card. And now what do you do with a pledge card? Fill it out. Yes. Fill it out is a good start. So what this is saying is, I pledge to make a commitment. I pledge to make proportional giving an act of love this year. I pledge to write in however much I want to give, a week, a month, a year. I pledge that this is going to be how I pour love into this church and into this world. I pledge that this will be my act of worship that's tied to money because we have to have money to survive as a church, but also because I love God and I love this community. This pledge card, we're going to talk about budget next week, so just hang tight for that conversation. But this pledge is so much more than budget. It is so much more than numbers. It is a declaration of your trust. You're deciding to reflect your love to this church. This is a first fruit kind of commitment. However, it is also a fluid commitment. Because what happens during the year? You lose a job. What happens that you lost a loved one or you have an unexpected medical bill? What happens with your pledge? Do I hold it to you and I smack you over your head with it and say, how dare you not fulfill it? If you think that's true, then I really don't know me quite well enough. If something happens and you fill out this proportional giving pledge card and you're like, I cannot keep up, okay. Thank you. Thank you for being faithful when you could. Thank you for being faithful as you can. Thank you for using this spiritual tool. This declaration of trust is not that you don't trust God, it's that life is sometimes just really hard. So this spiritual challenge for us is not to give equally, but to give proportionally. The widow and the wealthy were not giving equally, but they were giving extraordinarily, kind of proportionally, and very proportionally, beyond proportionally. This radical faith that we have in a radical God is seen through a lot of different ways. And one way is this principle of living out how we love this community, serving it, growing with it, loving it. It's a commitment that is required by all of us. It is not my church. It is not just one of your church. We are the church, and together, when we give out of love, the commitment is huge, astronomical. And it's honestly so much more glorious when we give out of love than we give out of obligation. So, the call here is to be a cheerful giver, to be driven by generosity, to be committed to love, to let your financial and present commitment be the loudest proof that you love this place. Come and serve, come here and grow, and come here and be love and to love. Right here, right now. This is how we do this. Put your faith into action. Be loud when it comes to your faith, and be a cheerful giver this day and always. Thanks be to God. Amen.